Welcome to video 8 of Hardcore WoW and Stoicism. We're continuing with book 4, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, and we will see what we can do.
Awareness, how this being acts through a single impulse, how all things co-author every event, and how deeply they interweave and connect. 41. You're a soul dragging a corpse, as Epictetus said. 42. For what is in the
Buddy's got
process
me a
of
world buff
transformation,
last night
nothing
so
is
we
bad,
could progress a little
nor can
faster.
anything be good for what arises from transformation. 43. Eternity is a river of events, a raging current. Every single thing, once it comes into view, is swept past, and another rushes by, only to be carried away in turn. 44. Everything that happens is ordinary and familiar, like roses in spring, fruit in summer. The same applies to sickness, death, slander, betrayal, and all that delights or torments fools. 45. What follows is bound to what came before by a thread of affinity, not as a random sequence of isolated events governed only by necessity, but as a tight, rational connection. Just as reality is harmoniously ordered, so too events are not merely strung together, but linked by a kind of marvelous kinship. 46. Always remember Heraclitus. Earth dies into water, water into air, air into fire, and so back again. Remember, too, those who forget where the path leads, and people clash most with what they're closest to, the reason governing the whole. Yet they find alien what they encounter daily, and don't act or speak as if asleep.
Well, I'm fighting a lot of wolves.
We seem to act and speak, and reject blind obedience to parents, that is, mindlessly following what we were taught. 47.
We're doing okay.
If God told you you'll die tomorrow, or at the latest the day after, you wouldn't care much whether it was the second day or the first. After all, what's the difference in such a short span? So, too, don't think it a great matter to die many years from now rather than tomorrow. 48. Think constantly. How many doctors have died after frowning over patients countless times? How many astrologers after foretelling others' deaths with solemn proclamations? How many philosophers after endless debates on death or immortality? How many heroes after killing countless men? How many tyrants after wielding life and death power with arrogant pride, as if immortal? And how many cities have perished? Like Pompeii, Herculaneum, and countless others. Now review everyone you've known. One buried another, then lay dying. Another did the same, and so on. All in a fleeting span. So view human life as it is, fleeting and trivial. Yesterday mucus, tomorrow a corpse or ash. This infinitesimal moment of time, live it naturally and end it in peace. Like the olive that, once ripe, falls praising the earth that nourished it and thanking the tree that bore it. 49.
Not bad advice, guys.
Be like the headland against which the waves crash ceaselessly. Stand firm, and around it the churning waters will subside. Woe is me, this has happened to me. Not at all. Instead, blessed am I, for though this has happened, I endure without pain, unbroken by the present and unafraid of the future. For such a thing could happen to anyone, but not everyone could endure it without despair. So why call this misfortune rather than that good fortune? In short, can you call something a misfortune for a human being if it doesn't violate human nature? And does anything that doesn't oppose the will of nature count as such a violation? Then remember, you've learned what nature demands. And surely whatever has happened won't prevent you from being just, courageous, temperate, wise, patient, truthful, modest, free, and possessed of all the other virtues that together fulfill humanity's true nature. Finally, whenever an event causes you suffering, use this principle. This is not a misfortune. It is a blessing to bear it nobly. 50. A non-philosophical but still useful aid for despising death is to recall those who clung desperately to life. What did they gain over those who died young? They too lie somewhere. Seditianus, Fabius, Julianus, Lepidus, and others like them, who buried so many, only only to be buried themselves. In the end, the difference in time is small, and spent with how much suffering, in what company, and in what state of body.
Oh, we did pretty good.
So don't think it matters. Look behind you at the vast abyss of eternity, and ahead at another endless expanse.
It's good to have a buddy up here.
In this context, what difference is there between living 3 days or 3 times Nestor's years? 51. Always take the shortest path. The shortest path is the one according to nature, so that you may speak and act in the most effective way. Such a resolve frees you from the burdens of war, the demands of leadership, and the excesses of refinement. With reserve, Stoicism. In Stoic ethics, every action should be undertaken with what they called a reservation clause, upexeresis. While the intention and decision remain firm, the wise person must remain aware that external obstacles may prevent the outcome. This attitude reflects acceptance of fate without abandoning moral purpose. 2. Providence or atoms. Philosophy. A concise opposition between Stoicism and Epicureanism, 2 dominant schools of thought in antiquity. The Stoics believed in a rational, providential cosmos governed by logos. The Epicureans, by contrast, held that the universe operated through the random motion of atoms, without divine oversight. 3. Universe is a city. Stoicism. The Stoics saw the cosmos as a single rational city, polis, governed by divine reason, logos. All rational beings are citizens of this great city, and their moral duty is to live in harmony with its laws, which reflect nature and universal reason. 4. Nothing touches the soul. Stoicism. External things are inert in themselves and cannot disturb the soul unless one gives assent, socatethesis, to the impression they create. According to the Stoics, all emotional disturbance arises from our judgment, doxa, about things, not from the things themselves. 5. Universe, perception, literature. This quote is taken from fragment 115 in the Diels Krantz collection and is attributed to Democritus. It reflects his distinction between genuine knowledge and sensory perception, the latter being viewed as subjective and unreliable. 6. Nothing comes from nothing. Stoicism. The Stoics rejected the idea of creation from nothing, ex nihilo. They taught that the universe arises from and returns to an eternally existing divine substance, reset.
I'm about to level, guys.
Cycles of formation and dissolution according to natural law.
And there we did it.
Principles
Level
of its
11.
constitution. Philosophy refers to the ancient idea that human beings are composed of the 4 elements: earth, water, air, and fire, known as stoicheia in Greek. Since these elements came together to form a person,
Looking
they
for
will
group.
inevitably dissolve
Bird.
and return to nature. This
Protecting.
principle explains why death is natural and unavoidable. 8. Being good.
Make sure
Stoicism.
these guys don't need
In
any
the
help.
Stoic sense,
They're
a
liable
good
to kill
person lives in
themselves.
accordance with nature and aligns with divine providence, pronoia, which governs the universe justly. By acting virtuously, one cooperates with this rational order and fulfills their moral role in the cosmos. 9. Seminal reason, Stoicism. Also known as logos spermatikos, the generative principle in Stoic physics that organizes and animates the cosmos, acting as an efficient cause within nature and human beings. Death is a return to cosmic reason. 10. Many grains of frankincense on the same altar. Stoicism. Life is like an offering to the universe, which is both our origin and our final destination. The image reflects the Stoic view that death is a natural return to the whole, a dissolution of the individual into the rational, ordered cosmos, logos, where the timing of death is ultimately indifferent. 11. And later. Textual note. This passage is partially corrupted or missing in the surviving manuscripts. The ellipsis reflects a gap or uncertainty in the original text. 12. Purple cloth. Culture. Deep purple dye, known as royal purple, was laboriously extracted from the murex shellfish and was the most expensive of ancient dyes. In Rome, it was a symbol of power and prestige, used for the hems of senatorial togas, and worn in full by emperors to signify supreme
I
authority.
can't join with him because I'm not a gnome.
13.
That's funny.
Stoicism.
There's several
While most Stoics accepted the
racial
continuing existence of the
groups
soul
going on
after
right
death,
now.
they did not affirm personal immortality. The soul, psyche, was considered a material substance, eventually dissolving like the body. Marcus here challenges a superficial reading of Stoic doctrine, which held that all things, even the soul, are part of the physical, rational order of the cosmos. 14. Cecrops, mythology. A mythical figure, half man and half serpent, Cecrops is considered the first king of Athens, often depicted as a civilizing hero who introduced laws and religious rites. The quote is from Aristophanes, fragment 110.
I want to do Protecting the Herd because there's the awesome mace there. Let's see if I can't find some dwarves.
Philosophy. This rare reference to a traditional deity reflects Marcus's view that Stoicism is compatible with the ancient gods. However, the religious tone of the meditations is primarily philosophical. He reveres the rational order of the universe, not the rituals of cult worship. His use of God and the gods is often interchangeable and abstract, pointing to a divine intelligence rather than specific deities. 16. Do little, peace. Literature. This saying is attributed to Democritus and preserved as fragment 3 in the Deal's Krantz collection. It reflects the philosopher's emphasis on inner tranquility and self-sufficiency as key to a fulfilled life. 17. All things. Stoicism. In Stoic physics, everything has its own properties, yet is interwoven with everything else. This is due to the mutual blending, krasis, of all things, since all are composed of the same four elements and sustained by the same indwelling spirit, pneuma. The active rational force that permeates the cosmos. 18. Nearly naked. Philosophy. Marcus is likely alluding to cynic philosophers who rejected social conventions and lived in extreme simplicity. 19. Tyrant or a slave. Stoicism. Since all human beings share in divine reason, logos, they are equal by nature. For the Stoics, no one should seek to dominate or submit to others, but rather live in mutual respect as fellow citizens of the rational universe. 20. Vespasian. Biography. Titus Flavius Vespasian ruled as Roman emperor from 69 to 79 CE. Founder of the Flavian dynasty, he is remembered for restoring stability after the chaos.
We're going to do Hogger instead.
With his pragmatism and administrative reforms. 21. Trajan. Biography. Marcus Ulpius Trajanus was Roman emperor from 98 to 117 CE. Alongside Vespasian, he is cited here as an example of a virtuous and capable ruler.
We're going to kill Hogger.
Praised for his just governance and military success, and frequently referenced as an example of Optimus Princeps, the ideal emperor. 22. Camillus, Caeso, Volusus, Dentatus. History. These names refer to four renowned heroes of the Roman Republic, celebrated for their civic virtue, military valor, and unwavering commitment to the res publica. 23. Scipio and Cato. History. Publius Cornelius Scipio, known as Scipio Africanus, famously defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in 202 BCE. Marcus Porcius Cato, later known as Cato the Censor, held that office in 184 BCE and became a symbol of stern Roman virtue and traditional values. 24. Augustus, Hadrian, Antoninus. History. Octavian Augustus was the first Roman emperor, ruling from 27 BCE to 14 CE. Publius Aelius Hadrian reigned from 117 to 138 CE, and adopted Antoninus Pius, who became emperor from 138 to 161 CE. In turn, Antoninus adopted Marcus Aurelius, continuing the succession of the so-called adoptive emperors, praised for their wisdom and stability. 25. Strangers Unknown. Literature. This phrase comes from Homer's Odyssey.
We best get more
line
people for Hogger.
242, emphasizing the transience and anonymity of human fame, in contrast to the enduring nature of virtue.
Hogger has killed many a man
26.
and woman.
Clotho, mythology. Along with Atropos and Lachesis, Clotho was one of the three Moirai, fates, in Greek mythology, divine weavers who governed the destinies of mortals. Clotho spun the thread of life, initiating each human fate. 27. Simple, Stoicism. For the Stoics, simplicity, haplos, means inner integration, freedom from passion, and the ability to act without deceit or compromise.
Oh, freedom of passion is good.
It reflects a steady, unified character that lives in harmony with reason and deals with others sincerely. 28. One substance and one soul. Stoicism. A clear expression of Stoic pantheism. The belief that the universe is a single living being composed of one substance, oisa, and one soul, psyche, permeated by divine reason, logos. All things are parts of this unified, rational whole. 29. Epictetus said, Stoicism. This quote is from fragment 26 in the Schenkel
I
edition.
feel like the
of
tram's
Epictetus.
going slower than normal.
Although brief,
Maybe
the quote
it's
encapsulates the core of his Stoic teaching.
not real.
Practical wisdom rooted in self-mastery and alignment with nature. 30. Everything that happens is Stoicism. Marcus reflects on the sameness and recurrence of all events, both pleasant and painful, as a way to cultivate objectivity. For the Stoics, such things are indifference, adiaphora, neither good nor bad in themselves. Recognizing their transitory and repetitive nature helps free the mind from undue attachment or aversion.
Splendid.
31. Earth, parents, literature. This phrase is attributed to Heraclitus and corresponds to fragments 76 and 71 to 74 in the Diels Krantz collection. These enigmatic lines highlight death and life as states of awareness or illusion, echoing his philosophy of flux and paradox. 32.
Okay, we're in
Die tomorrow.
Stormwind.
Stoicism.
Oh, look, we have a quest to turn in here.
For the Stoics, the length of life
We
is
best
morally
do it.
indifferent, adiaphoron. What matters is to live according to nature and virtue. Death, near or far, is part of the rational order of the universe, logos. And fearing it reveals a misunderstanding of what is truly good. 33.
Watson, if you come
Elike,
looking for
Pompeii,
the finest craftsmanship
Herculaneum.
on this or
History.
any other continent in the
Elike, the capital of Achaia, was destroyed by an earthquake in 373 BC.
Well, that's pretty
Pompeii
cool.
and Herculaneum were later buried by the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. All three cities became enduring symbols of sudden and total destruction and nature's indifference to human grandeur. 34. Sidicianus, Fabius, Julianus, Lepidus. Biography, uncertain. These figures are difficult to identify with certainty except for the last, Lepidus, who may refer to the triumvir of 43 BCE. The others remain obscure, possibly allusions to individuals known in Marcus Aurelius' time, but lost to historical record. 35. Gerenian, literature. Epithet of the hero Nestor, famed for living 3 generations, as noted in Homer's Iliad, I, 250 to 252. The epithet Gerenian often accompanies his name, highlighting his age. Book Vev. Discipline of Duty. Giovanni Battista Piranesi, Veduta dell'Arco di Costantino. The Arch of Constantine, scarred yet triumphant, symbolizes Marcus's resilience in fulfilling duty despite adversities. At dawn, when you hesitate to rise, keep this thought close. I wake to do the work of a human being, and still I grumble about setting out to do what I was born for, what I was brought into the cosmos to achieve. Or was I made just to lie here warm under the covers? But this is more pleasant. Were you born then for pleasure? Doesn't that mean being passive? Or were you born to be active? Don't you see how plants, sparrows, ants, spiders, bees all perform their tasks, contributing their part to the life of the universe. And you? Don't you want to do what is proper to a human being? Won't you run toward what aligns with your nature? But rest is necessary. Yes, it is. I agree. Yet nature has set limits even for this, as it has for eating and drinking. And yet you exceed these limits. Go beyond what is enough, except when it comes to action. Then you stay within the bounds of possibility. You don't love yourself, for if you did, you would also love your nature and its purpose. Others who love their work pour all their energy into it, skipping baths, skipping meals. Do you honor your own nature less than the engraver honors his chisel, the dancer his dance, the miser his money, or the vain their hollow glory? Yet those people, when passionate, will skip food and sleep to see their work grow. But to you, actions inspired by the common good seem less valuable, less worthy of attention? 2. How easy it is to dismiss and erase every troubling or improper thought and find yourself at once in perfect calm. 3. Consider yourself worthy of every word and action that align with nature, and don't yield to thoughts of criticism or gossip from others. If it's right to
That's
act
good
or
advice.
speak, don't deem
Just
yourself
roll the
unworthy.
gossip off.
For those critics follow their own ruling principles and impulses. Ignore them. Stay on the straight path, guided by both your personal nature and the common good, for there is only one road for both. 4. I move forward through what is according to nature until, falling, I rest, exhaling my final breath into the same earth from which I draw each
It's
day's
raining.
breath. Falling upon the same ground from which my father
That's all
gathered
right.
his seed, my mother drew her blood, my nurse took her milk, and from which I have drawn food and drink every day for so many years. The same earth that sustains me even as I tread upon it and use it for countless purposes. 5. They can't admire your cleverness. Fine. But there are many other qualities they can admire, ones you can't excuse by saying, nature didn't give me this gift. So put to use what depends entirely on you. Sincerity, seriousness, endurance of hardship and pain, indifference to pleasure, acceptance of fate, moderation in needs, kindness, freedom, simplicity, disdain for gossip, magnanimity. Don't you see how many qualities, ones you can't claim to lack by nature or ability, you're already capable of practicing, yet you still choose to fall short? Is it really a lack of natural talent that makes you complain, be petty, flatter others, lament your poor body, act servile, boast, or waver in your soul? No, by the gods, you could have freed yourself from such behaviors long ago, or at worst, been judged only slow-witted or dull. But even this requires effort, instead of neglecting the problem and wallowing in laziness.
Sending the bulk of our
6.
army abroad.
Some people,
When our
after
home
earning
front is
someone's
under so much
favor, are
pressure,
quick to keep
with
score
thieves
and
coming
hold it
from
over them.
Westfall and gnolls encroaching
Others
from
don't
the
go that
east and
far, but
west.
still consider
It's a
the other
wonder
person
Stormwind
indebted
itself
and are
is
well
the
aware
same.
of what they've done.
Looks to me you've seen
Then
quite
there
a
are
bit of
those who
combat
aren't
in
even
your time
conscious
in
of their
Century.
actions,
If
like
you
a
haven't
vine
already,
producing
you
its
should report
grapes.
to Gryan Stoutmantle.
Once it has
He
borne
heads up
fruit,
the
it
People's
doesn't ask
Militia
for
Aim.
more. Or like a horse after a race, a hound after tracking
I can't
prey,
believe the
or a
officials
bee
of
after
Stormwind
making honey.
sending the bulk of
A
our
person who
army
acts
abroad.
rightly doesn't shout
When our
about it,
home
but
front
moves
is
on
under
to the
so much
next
pressure.
task.
I
Just as
can't
the
give
vine
that quest.
produces
That's
another cluster
interesting.
when the season comes. Such people act naturally, without awareness of
That's
their virtue.
fascinating.
Yes, someone might say, but isn't it essential to be
That's
aware
all
of
right.
this?
Figured it out.
After all, being social means understanding that your actions benefit society, and, by Zeus, ensuring others recognize it too. What you say is true, but you misunderstand the point at hand. That's why you'll end up among those I mentioned earlier. They too are misled by a semblance of logic. If you truly want to understand what's being discussed here, don't fear neglecting any action useful to the community. 7. The prayer of the Athenians. Rain, rain, O dear Zeus, on the fields and plains of Athens. Either we should not pray at all, or we should pray like this, simply and sincerely. 8. Just as we say, Asclepius prescribed this man to ride, or bathe in cold water, or walk barefoot, so too we can say, universal nature has prescribed this man an illness, a disability, a loss, or something similar. For in the first case, prescribed means roughly, ordered this treatment as beneficial for his health. And similarly, in the second case, what happens to each person has been arranged in a way suited to their destiny. We might also say that events fit together just as architects say that squared stones fit into walls or pyramids because they align with one another in a specific arrangement. Overall, there is one single harmony. Just as all bodies together form a single body, the cosmos, so too all causes together form a single cause, fate. Even those without philosophical training understand this. They say, for instance, fate brought this upon him. So, this was brought to him. This was arranged for him. Let us then accept these prescriptions as we would those of Asclepius. Many of them are harsh, yet we embrace them willingly, hoping for health. Consider the fulfillment of what seems good to universal nature as your own health. Accept wholeheartedly everything that happens, even if it seems bitter, for it lead there, to the health of the cosmos, to the complete and happy success of Zeus. For he would never have brought this event to someone if it did not benefit the universe, and no nature brings about anything unsuited to what it governs. Therefore, love what happens to you for two reasons. First, because it was meant for you, it was arranged for you, and stood in a particular relationship to you, woven long ago by the threads of ancient causes. Second, because for the ruler of all, what happens to each individual contributes to the prosperity, completeness, and, by Zeus, even the very existence of the whole.
Well, we killed Hogger.
The whole is maimed, after all, if you remove even one part from the totality and structure, and thus, in a sense, you amputate and subtract when you oppose the whole. 9. Don't be disgusted, discouraged, or disheartened if you can't perform every action perfectly according to right principles. After a misstep, simply retrace your steps and be content if most of your actions are worthy of a human being. Love what you return to, but don't come back to philosophy as if it were a schoolmaster. Instead, return to it as the sick return to their treatments, like those with sore eyes who turn to the sponge and egg, or others who rely on poultices and warm compresses. In this way, you won't flaunt your obedience to reason. You'll find peace in it. Remember, though, that philosophy desires only what your nature desires, while you often desire things contrary to nature. What could be more appealing than what aligns with nature? Doesn't pleasure deceive us precisely because it seems attractive? Yet consider whether magnanimity, freedom, simplicity, gentleness, and devotion to the gods aren't far more alluring. And what could attract us more than wisdom itself? Especially when you realize that the ability to understand and know with precision ensures a path free from error, secure in every circumstance. 10. Reality, in a way, is so tangled that it has seemed utterly incomprehensible to many philosophers, and not just ordinary ones, though even the Stoics themselves find it hard to grasp. And every judgment we make is mutable, where, after all, is the person who never changes. So turn your attention directly to objects, how fleeting they are, how worthless, and how they might belong to a pervert, a prostitute, or a thief. Then turn to consider the characters of those around you. Even the most agreeable among them are hard to endure, not to mention how hard it is to tolerate oneself. Now, in such darkness, such filth, amid the constant flux of substance, time, motion, and all things in motion, I cannot see what could possibly deserve our admiration, or, for that matter, our effort. On the contrary, we must comfort ourselves and wait for nature's resolution, without growing impatient in the meantime. Find peace in these two thoughts alone. First, that nothing will happen to me that is not in harmony with universal nature. Second, that I am not allowed to act against my God and daimonion, for no one can force me to violate their will. 11. For what purpose should I use my soul right now? In every situation, ask yourself this question and examine. What is currently in this part of me that I call my ruling principle? And whose soul do I have now? The soul of a child, a teenager, a weak woman, a tyrant, a domesticated animal, a wild beast? 12. You can understand the nature of what most people consider goods through this reasoning. If someone truly regards wisdom, moderation, justice, and courage as goods, after conceiving them as such, they could never endure that line from the poet, "with all these goods," because it wouldn't apply to their situation. But someone who values what most people call goods will listen to the entire line from the comic poet and find no
So
trouble
good
except
pants.
deeming it
Here
fitting.
you are, adventurer.
So
And thanks.
even the majority
That gnoll was
recognize the
giving me a
difference,
headache the size
at
of
least
Black Rock's
implicitly.
spire.
Otherwise, it wouldn't
Some
be
good
the case that in
pants.
the first instance, the expression jars and is rejected, while in the second, we embrace it as witty and appropriate.
And then we can
when applied to
disenchant
wealth
the
and
other ones.
trappings of luxury and fame. So continue and ask yourself, should we honor and consider as goods things such that once valued, it seems fitting to add that their owner has nowhere left to defecate, thanks to their riches? 13. I am made up of a causal element and a material element. Neither will be lost into nothingness, nor did either arise from nothing. Thus, every part of me, through transformation, will return to a part of the cosmos, and that part will transform into another part of the cosmos, and so on endlessly. I too exist as a product of such transformations, as did my parents and their parents before them, stretching back infinitely. Nothing prevents us from speaking this way, even if the cosmos is governed by fixed cycles. 14. Reason and the art of reasoning are powers that are sufficient unto themselves
Good day
and their
to
own
you.
workings.
You got them. Good show.
They proceed from their own
One
starting
moment
point
while
and
the
move toward their intended goal. Thus, such actions are called right actions, signifying their straight and true
Take this
path.
invisibility liquor to
Oh.
young Maybell.
15.
It should last long enough for her to
Person
visit
should not
Tommy's
Let's go help
concern himself
Maybell
with
and
anything that
Tommy
does not
fall in
befit a
love.
human being as such. These things are not requirements of
We can
humanity,
kill some bears down
nor are
there.
they promised by human nature, nor do they fulfill it. Therefore, neither the goal set for humans nor the good that achieves this goal is to be found in them. Furthermore, if any of these things were truly suited to humanity, it would not be fitting to despise or resist them, nor would it be praiseworthy for someone to show they can do without them. And if these things were truly
Ooh,
good,
spider.
it would not be virtuous for someone to set limits on them. But as it stands, one becomes more virtuous the more willingly
purify.
they accept deprivation of these things, or their
All's
loss at the hands of others.
No, you can't skin the
16.
spider.
The thoughts you dwell on constantly will shape your mind, for thoughts color the soul with their own hue.
That's very good advice.
So
Think good
saturate
things,
your
guys.
mind continually with thoughts like these. Where it is possible to live, it is also possible to live well. Life at court is possible. Therefore, life at court can also be lived well. And again, every being moves
Where it's
toward
possible
that
to
for which it was
live, it's
created.
possible to live
Its purpose
well.
lies in what it moves toward.
That is good
Where the
advice.
purpose lies, there too lies what is useful and good for each being. Therefore, the good of a rational being is to live in harmony with others. For it has long been proven that we were born for communal life. Isn't it clear? Lower beings exist for the sake of higher ones, and higher beings exist for one another. Living beings are superior to inanimate things, and rational beings are superior to those that are merely alive. 17. Chasing the impossible is madness, and it is impossible for the wicked not to act as they do. 18. Nothing happens to anyone that they cannot by nature endure. The same things happen to others, and yet some, either because they are unaware it has happened or because they choose to display courage,
Hello.
remain steadfast and
Oh,
emerge unharmed.
My, I feel guilty
It is troubling,
deceiving my
then, that
family,
ignorance
but
and
my
vanity
feelings for
can
Tommy
prove
Joe are
stronger
too
than
strong
wisdom.
to ignore. Thank you,
19.
adventurer. I'll drink this
External
liquor
things
as soon as I
cannot
have
touch the
chance
soul
and
in any
sneak away
way.
to my love.
They have no
And for
access
you,
to it,
please
nor can
take
they
this.
alter or move it. The soul alone alters and moves itself, shaping the things that reach it from outside according to the judgments it deems worthy to make. 20. On one hand, we are deeply connected to other humans, as we must do them good and endure them. On the other hand, when some hinder me in carrying out my specific task, they become to me just another indifferent thing, no different from the sun, the wind, or a wild beast. For while these may obstruct an action, they cannot hinder my will or disposition, since by drawing on inner resources, I can overcome them. Thought indeed has the power to transform every obstacle into fuel for its purpose, so that what once blocked a given action now aids it, and what once barred a path now helps me walk it. 21. Of all beings in the cosmos, honor the best. It is the one that governs and arranges everything. Similarly, within yourself, honor the best part. It shares the nature of that supreme being. For within you, too, it is the part that governs all else, and your life is under its control. 22. What does not harm the city does not harm the citizen either. To every impression of harm received, apply this rule. If the city is not harmed by it, then I am not harmed either. And if the city suffers no harm, we should not be angry with the one who caused the harm, but instead show him where he went wrong. 23. Reflect often on the swiftness with which beings and events pass away and vanish. For substance flows like an unbroken river, actions are in constant flux, causes undergo countless changes, and there is scarcely anything that remains fixed. Consider, too, this boundless abyss of past
We're looking
and
for
future,
bears.
stretching endlessly nearby, into which everything fades. In such a state, how can one not be mad to be so self-absorbed, or to writhe in agony, or to lament as if their suffering could endure for long?
In the rain.
24. Remember the vastness of the whole substance, of which you partake in only the smallest measure, the entirety of eternity, of which you have been granted but a fleeting, infinitesimal span, and fate, of which you are but a tiny fragment.
There's a bear.
25. Another person wrongs me? That is their concern. They have their own inner disposition, their own actions. As for me, I now have what the common nature wills me to have, and I do what my own nature wills me to do. 26. Let the ruling principle of your soul remain unshaken by the sweet or harsh movements that occur in the flesh.
Splendid.
Do not let it become entangled with
Oh,
them.
I gotta kill Princess.
Instead, it should confine those passions to their respective organs.
Even at level
However,
11.
if they spread to the mind
I will
through a
not
different kind of sympathy,
tempt Princess.
as happens within the unity of the body, then you must not resist the sensation itself, for it is
It's a
natural.
very deadly quest.
But your ruling principle should refrain from adding its own judgment that these sensations are good or evil. 27. To live with the gods is to live as one who continually shows them a soul content with what fate assigns and actively fulfills the will of the daimonian, that fragment of himself which Zeus has given to each person as a guide and director. This daimonian is the intellect and reason within each of us. 28. Are you angry with someone who smells of goat? Are you angry with someone who has bad breath? What can they do about it? They have the mouth they were given, the armpits they were born with. It's inevitable that such odors arise from their condition. But, you might object, a person has reason and can understand upon reflection where they've gone wrong. Excellent. So you too possess reason. Use your rational disposition to stir their rational disposition. Point out their error and call them to reflect on it. If they listen, you will have healed them, and there will be no need for anger. Neither a tragic actor nor a prostitute. 29. It is possible to live here in the same way you imagine living once you leave this place. And if they do not allow it, then leave life itself, not as one who suffers harm, but as one who accepts what comes.
Yeah.
There is smoke, so I leave. Why should I consider it a great matter?
I don't think they can even
But
catch
as long
me.
as nothing forces me to leave, I remain free, and no one can prevent me from doing what I will, so long as my will aligns with the nature of a rational and social being. Deity, the mind of the universe is inclined towards social harmony. Thus, it has created the lower beings for the sake of the higher ones, and has placed the higher beings in mutual connection. See how it has subordinated, coordinated, and assigned each according to its merit, and how it has guided the superior beings to mutual concord. 31. Reflect on how you have behaved until now toward the gods, your parents, siblings, spouse, children, teachers, mentors, friends, relatives, servants, whether in all these relationships you have upheld the principle of do not do or say anything
Take a
harmful
peek in
to
there
anyone.
too. Then we'll call it quits.
Recall, too, the trials you have endured and the challenges you have overcome. Remember that by now, the story of your life is complete, and your service is nearing its end. Consider how many beautiful things you have witnessed, how many pleasures and pains you have dismissed, how many opportunities for glory you have ignored, and how many ungrateful people you have treated with kindness. 32. Why do unskilled and ignorant souls trouble a soul that possesses art and knowledge? And what, then, is a soul that possesses art and knowledge? It is one that understands the beginning and the end, and the principle that runs through all substance, governing the whole across eternity in defined cycles. 33. In no time at all you will be ashes or a skeleton, a mere name, or not even that. A name is nothing but noise and echoes. The things people value so highly in life are empty, rotten, trivial, like snarling puppies, squabbling children who laugh one moment and cry the next. Loyalty, modesty, justice, and truth have long since fled from the wide paths of earth to Olympus. So what keeps you here? Sensory objects are endlessly shifting and unstable, the senses themselves dull and prone to illusion, and the poor soul itself is but a fleeting breath drawn from the blood. To win praise from such people is an empty thing. So what now? Should you not wait calmly for your extinction or transformation? And until that moment comes, what is enough? Nothing more than this. Honor and bless the gods. Do good to others and endure them. Restrain yourself and remember that whatever lies outside your fragile body and fleeting breath is not yours and is beyond your control. 34. You always have the power to journey happily, for you also have the power to walk the straight path and align your thoughts and actions with it. Two faculties are shared by the soul of the divine, the human, and every rational being: the ability to remain unimpeded by others and to place good in an inner disposition and actions that accord with justice, letting all desires find their fulfillment here. 35. If this is not my wrongdoing nor an action caused by my own malice, and if the community suffers no harm from it, why should I concern myself with it?
Okay, I've explored it.
What harm
Let's
does
go
it
back to
bring
Goldshire,
society? 36.
and we will
Do not let yourself be carried
call
away
it a
entirely
day.
by appearances, but offer your help to others according to your ability and their merit, even if the harm they complain of concerns indifferent things. But do not view it as harm. It is a bad habit. Instead, act like that old man who, on the verge of leaving, asked for his grandson's spinning top, fully aware that it was just a spinning top. And yet, here you are, weeping on the rostra. Man, have you forgotten what it really is? Yes, I remember well, but these people attach great importance to it. And because of this, should you go mad too? 37. Once, no matter what situation I found myself in, I was a fortunate man. But fortunate means having assigned to oneself a good fate. And a good fate means good inclinations of the soul, good impulses, and good actions. I wake to do. Stoicism. Marcus reminds himself that his purpose is to live according to nature, doing good, acting with virtue, and fulfilling his rational role. To align oneself
It's very
with the
important to
divine
follow
will
the laws
and
of nature.
purpose is to accept life as a calling
There's a great
shaped
deal of
by
happiness
reason,
in embracing
providence,
nature.
and the natural order. 2. Nurse took her milk. Culture. In antiquity, upper-class women commonly entrusted their infants to a wet nurse, nutrix in Latin, trophos in Greek, often a woman whose own child had recently died. The practice was shaped by social norms and the high infant mortality rate of the time. 3. What depends entirely on you? Stoicism. For the Stoics, virtue is entirely within our control, a function of deliberate moral choice. Proheresis. Not intellectual brilliance or innate talent. While intelligence may vary by nature, virtue arises from how we choose to respond to life, regardless of natural
Kobolds at the
gifts.
Jasper Low Line, you say? Curse.
Yes, someone might say
Situation's worsening by the minute.
Stoicism.
Thank you for the report,
The
adventurer.
Stoic value of
But I
action
wish that
lies
the
in
news you
intention,
brought was good
not in
enough.
seeking recognition.
The garrison on our western border says
Benefiting
we're
others is
increasing
virtuous.
All right, guys, we've done enough.
Not
They're
for praise.
requesting more
I want to do a
aligns
few
with
more
the
quests
concept
here
of
before we go back to Done Will Go, so I'm going
Guided by
to
reason and virtue.
go into the Lion's Pride Inn.
5. The prayer of the
We'll hang out
Athenians.
here.
The garrison is down the road.
Stoicism.
After after you cross the
Marcus
All right,
contrasts
guys.
selfish petitionary prayer with simple, selfless acceptance.
Thank you for listening to the meditations in episode 8, and we will catch you later.